Gaurav Gogoi ji. Only
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll make only 6 points. Only 6 points.
but
My
six
first.
points within 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam. 6 points will be finished within 5 minutes. I guarantee you that. The first point I would like to make is on dignity. I rise to support the spirit and courage of our armed forces. Our brave soldiers have triumphed whenever they have been tested, whether it's in 1947, 1965, 1971, 1999, and the countless surgical strikes that they have done. My only request to all political parties is to remember that the armed forces is of the nation and secures our boundaries. It is not for the bragging rights of any party during election season. My second point, Madam, is on parity. Through you, I request the government to create parity between civil, paramilitary, and military officers. In the same conditions, different benefits cannot be accorded to officers belonging to different sectors. They must be looked through the lens of equality and equity. The recommendations of the 7th Pay Commission, Madam, unfortunately have been disappointing, especially when it comes to hazard allowances and promotion of ranks. How can a military officer be earning less than a civil officer while both of them are working in the same location? It sends a wrong message. My third point is on recruitment. The government needs to look towards Indian armed services as a way of mobilizing young people, young men and women to fulfill their duty towards our nation. And unfortunately, the number of vacancies in our forces are staggering. The total vacancies are 73,402 in defense services. In technical personnel, when it comes to ordnance factory, the vacancy is close to 48%. We need to fulfill these vacancies. We need to induct more women in our Indian armed services. We also need to make our armed forces more attractive. It is unfortunate when a former general says that the attractiveness of our Indian armed forces is decreasing. We need to address this by establishing new Sainik schools. The ministry has written to me confirming their intention to start a new Sainik school in the Golaghat district of Assam. I hope you start that, and I hope you start even more Sainik schools in other parts of India. When it comes to Assam, there are a lot of Air Force squadrons which are based there, but their infrastructure in airports and the air connectivity for civilians can also be improved in Tezpur and Jorhat if the Air Force and the Army share their properties. My fourth point, Madam, 2 more are remaining. My fourth point is on preparedness. As raised by Chief Whip Jyotiraditya Scindia, the number of Air Force squadrons is definitely worrying. Today's war will be fought over the air and over the seas. Had this government followed the UPA policy on Rafales, our total squadron strength would have been close to 40, but now we are restricted to 35 squadrons. 90 aircrafts are pending. Where will this government fulfill the vacancies of 90 aircrafts? Where will you get the remaining 90 aircrafts by a new Rafale policy? For ordnance, the fire in a recent ordnance factory was extremely worrying. We hope that you have undertaken a proper inquiry and share the results as to why our ordnance factories are so much vulnerable. We hope that a similar ordnance factory can be established in Assam to service the Air Force squadrons which are operating there. My fifth point, Madam, my second last point, is on rations. No army can fight on an empty stomach. The rations given to our soldiers are woefully inadequate. And despite complaints on social media, it is worrying to see the budget of 2017-18 on stores and rations, instead of being increased, it is being reduced. Madam Speaker, we need to be more sensitive. If a soldier is complaining about the poor quality of food, let us not question his mental health, but instead question ourselves. If similar rations were served every day in the central hall of this parliament, what would we as MPs do? If we want better rations in Central Hall, then surely our Jawans demand even better rations than what we deserve as parliamentarians. My last point, Madam, is on perspective. Time it has come to reflect on our perspective, on our military posture. Are we going to be a large army stuck in a defensive position, vulnerable to a policy of bleeding by 1,000 cuts, or will we need to be more agile, more strategic, more tactical, and become a modern, tactically offensive army? In the end, madam, I would like to conclude by what I started with. What our army and armed forces need is dignity and respect. सम्मान से बड़ी चीज और कोई नहीं है. मैं चाहता हूं कि इस बजट के द्वारा हर जो हमारा युवक जो आज मिलिट्री फोर्स में है, उसको हम जो उनके सम्मान देना चाहिए हम और अब इस बजट के द्वारा दे पाएं और नए पीढ़ी को आर्मी के तरफ जागरूक करते हुए, एयरफोर्स और नेवल को सहायता देते हुए हम इंडिया को 21वीं सदी में एक मॉडर्न आर्मी बना पाए, एक मॉडर्न आर्म फोर्सेस बना पाए. इसी के साथ मैं अपना भाषण यहीं पे खत्म करता हूं. धन्यवाद.
That's like a good boy.